Hi, Misha here, and the original plan when I recorded the video showing the kids was to post it late summer and then post an update video a few weeks or a month later when the guns were up and running. Well, for whatever reason, that video didn't get posted, so now we're doing them back to back as kind of a before and after. Here is again the carbine from that video, Sten Mark III 9mm with the extension tube on the barrel. And here is one of those kits. Builds up, and I decided to go ahead and do them both as pistols using these commando style grip end plates from Mishaco. You can buy them other places like IMA.II. Basically, it just slides on in place of a buttstock and is perfectly legal. That way you can still have your original 7.8 inch barrel, which looks pretty neat on a Mark III. You know, if you do a Mark II build, you can have a 16 inch barrel, and then you can have a short dummy or display barrel. But because this is fixed in place, you don't get that option. So here's our build. Part of the tube is original up front, welded together, has the seam on top. Standard mag well. And it is marked on the bottom as well. That's what's neat when you keep the mag well from these. You do get to keep the original military marks and stuff. This is the one that did not have the front sling swivel. Instead, it has two holes for the Sten sling. It has the lower cover held on, basically friction pressed. It was one of the economies of the Mark III. And this really was the ultimate in the cheap submachine gun. They even used sometimes a stamped sear instead of machined. The tube on the Mark III was a single sheet of steel, stamped steel that was rolled. That's why they had the seam on the top, although it also worked quite well as a sighting guide. These were made from about 48 components. Most of them did not require skilled labor, or at most semi-skilled. And most are stamped with very few machined parts, the bolt being one of them. These were incredibly efficient. They could produce one in under 5.5 hours at a fully equipped factory, and even a pretty primitive shop, not much better than a garage, could produce one in a day or so, if they had a few necessary components like the barrel and bolt, or could make them. And they were very ineffective. They were very ineffective. They were very cheap. Under $10. Some sources say closer to $5. Of course, once you adjust that for inflation, it turns to be more like maybe $100 to $150, but still very cheap for a military gun. Lyons Brothers, which was, like I said, a toy manufacturer, produced the majority of these, although Long Branch in Canada also made their fair share. And while the Mark II is more common, these had a place too. And I think it's kind of interesting because you do run across Mark III kits that have gone to Finland. Some of them were used over there briefly before the Valmet assault rifle, the RK.62, came into vogue. And of course, the Sten was used all around the world, and in China they even rechambered some and reworked some to fire 7.62 by 25 Tokarev. And like I said, this is striker fired. Have the striker back here, bolt up here. Got your regular trigger. It is a pistol. The grip is rather large, but that's just what they make. But since it's just 9mm, the absence of a stock isn't going to have crazy recoil. I brought out the two types of mags here just for fun. This is the standard 32 rounder, double stack, single feed. As I've said in many videos, that was the source of a lot of problems. So a lot of mags, like this one, had rods pinned inside. And there. And that turned them into 20 round, essentially single stack, single feed. So the bullets would just come straight up, kind of like a 1911 mag. And that really helped with reliability, especially in the desert. One good thing about the Sten, it was so crude and primitive and so loose that aside from just cleaning gunk and mud out, it didn't require a lot of grease or oil. It was just a Sten gun. So yeah, what do you think of this build? Not many people doing Sten builds these days. The Mark II was already completed and sold off. But like I said in the first part, I have a soft spot for the Mark III. I just know. It has a very cool, unique look to it to me. And hey, if you're going to go Sten, go as simple as possible, right? Like I said, some had the sling swivels, some did not. Pretty much all your Mark IIIs would have the simple tube stock, though. They would only build these for a brief time, and then once they started to kind of win the war, they would switch over to the Mark V in 1944, meaning that, about 900,000 were built. Far fewer than the Mark II, but actually more than the Mark V, and certainly more than the Mark I. So, it's the second most produced version. But yeah, these semi-auto type builds are a lot of fun. Something like this, you could SBR, or you could put an extension on it, or you could just leave it as a pistol. So, there you go. Could just tell you we built this in an evening, but now it's been a little while since I recorded the first half, but just trying to show you guys something maybe a little interesting that you don't see every day. Well, with that, is anyone working on any projects out there themselves? If so, we'd love to hear about them, talk about them in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them. And as always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to know more about the history of the Sten, we've done more than a few videos on that, as well as the Lanchester as well. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.